Hello, I want to welcome you to another episode of the Southern Gal Show. We're going to make a tomato sheet pan, a sage kind of crust with a tomato filling on it. So hang on and we'll be right back. Okay, we're going to start with making a crust for this tomato slab pie. It's really a sheet pan. We're going to make these on a sheet pan. I like to do sheet pan dinners. I like to do roasted vegetables on sheet pans. They're just really easy. And this is a pretty easy recipe. So we're going to use 2.5 cups of plain flour, AP flour, and a cup of whole wheat flour. And I'm going to put those in our food processor. This dough is really simple because it is made in the food processor. And to that, we're going to add the zest of a lemon in a minute, a half a teaspoon of black pepper, 1 1/2 teaspoons of just regular salt, 2 cloves of garlic, and I'm going to just roughly chop those in just a minute, and a half a cup of fresh sage. Now I'm going to just roughly chop this because the food processor is going to do most of the work for us, but it does need a little bit of a rough chop, so just kind of chop it up. It's not a fine chop, it doesn't take but a minute. Throw that in. And we have a tablespoon of sugar here too we're going to use in a minute, but we're going to save that with our zest to add it in just a minute. And I've got a half a cup of cold ice water. Now I had ice in here, and then I took the ice out and I just measured out a half a cup of cold ice water. And I've got 2.5 sticks of cold butter. You want things really cold, your ice water cold and your butter cold. We'll get to that in a minute. We're going to take this as fresh sage. We're going to use a half a cup, so I'm going to pick this out of my garden this morning, even though it's winter time. It was still growing, so I had plenty of fresh sage. You can use dried sage if you don't have fresh. You just might use a little bit less of it, but this is a half a cup of fresh. I'm going to pick it off, and I'm going to just roughly chop it. Please, I've already washed it, so it's good, y'all. Now in the summer, I grow this all summer in pots. The leaves get really big, but this time of year, they're not going to be nearly as big. And this is pretty much all I had in the garden. So, won't have any more probably till spring. It's getting too cold. We had snow this weekend, and so it'll kind of take care of it. Okay, we're going to roughly chop the sage. Got it all picked off of the stems. Now, if you don't want sage, you could do thyme or do some other kind of herb. You could mix sage and thyme too, but just decide what you like. I love sage, and so I'm really happy by using the sage. So just roughly chop it. You'll get a half a cup. If you don't have enough, just use some dried. This is all I have to pick, so this is all the fresh I have. I'm not going to go buy it for that. I'll just use some dried. Said you could use dried if you wanted to. It's mainly for flavor. I have put sage in pizza crust, and I put thyme in it, and I put rosemary a little bit, garlic, different flavors. And this, I believe that's right at 1/2 cup what I have. Wonderful. Awesome there. We're going to add that in. Get it all in there. And we're going to pulse this a little bit to get it mixed. Kind of pulse it. We are now ready. This is set in the refrigerator at least 30 minutes. Actually, mine's been in there longer. You can leave it overnight up to a day or two. We've got some plastic wrap here that it's on, but I'm going to pick it up, and I'm going to use my plastic wrap to help roll it out so it won't stick as much, and I won't have to use as much flour. But I'm going to use a little bit of flour. Okay, I'm going to flour my surface here just slightly. We're going to flatten this out, and it's cold, so it's going to take a little bit of softening up, but you don't want it too soft because that butter will start melting. You just want enough you can work with it. And flatten it down as much as you can. And then we want to roll it out to the size of a sheet pan. And my sheet pan is this long. I've got my finger right there. So I'm going to make it that long, which is about right there and right there. So I'll kind of, you can use a ruler, but I'm not going to right now. I'll put a little bit of flour on the inside of my plastic wrap, and we're going to start rolling this out. I'll turn it this way so I can get my length, and then I'll worry about the width. Just roll it out gently. It's going to be a little tough at first, but again, if you work with it, it's going to start softening up too. So just work with it a little bit. Don't just let it set out and get soft. That's not the goal. Work and get too soft. And on this side, we don't have it on the other side. Roll it up on your pen so we can get it over to the sticking just a little bit on me. A little flour there so we can kind of dust the flour underneath the. It needs a little bit more in the pan like that, so you have a little bit of an edge. Okay, to make the filling, we have 1/4 cup of cream cheese, and it's softened, but I'm going to beat it in a minute. We have a cup of mayonnaise. We have a cup of full fat buttermilk. We have 2 eggs beaten, a teaspoon of lemon. I'm going to put in a 1/2 teaspoon of salt and 1/2 teaspoon of pepper. My cheeses are white cheddar and sharp cheddar. Got about 1/2 cup of each. So we're going to first just cream this. We're going to cream this cream cheese just a tiny bit. Again, it needs to be softened, otherwise you're going to have a hard time getting it all mixed up. Cream cheese is optional. Some people put it in, some don't. I like a little cream cheese in there, but if you want to leave it out, you can. Beat that up until it's just creamy. Then we're going to add in our mayonnaise. Again, it's a cup of mayonnaise. A lot of mayonnaise, but it's a good rich Southern Tomato Pie. I'm going to put in a cup of full fat buttermilk. Let's get it all in there. I'm going to add in my teaspoon of lemon and my eggs. 2 eggs, and I've kind of beaten them up here. I'm going to put in a 1/2 teaspoon of salt and 1/2 teaspoon of pepper. And I grind my own pepper. I just think it's better. I grind it fresh in my little spice mill, and I grind my own sea salt. And I've got this ground pretty fine. That's the way I really like it. It really tastes good. It's so much better than salt that has chemicals in it. And pepper, freshly ground, is always best. But I do grind it up in small batches and keep it ahead of time. I don't grind it fresh every time I use it. Some people do. I'm just going to mix this up really well. Start on low so it won't splash all over you. And we'll speed it up a little bit. I don't want it on my shirt. I do, when I'm cooking, I get flour on my shirt and all kinds of stuff. And that is mixed up. Just going to stir in my cheeses. That's the end of that. It's a very simple filling to make. The crust is well worth making. Now you could use a bought crust, obviously, but that sage crust is what makes this, in my opinion. It is just super good. It's a really good crust. You can make it up, like I said, ahead of time. Keep it a couple of days in your fridge. But once you make it, that's the way you'll make it from then on, because it really is that good. So we'll come back and pour this into our par-baked filling and finish up with our little cherry tomatoes. We'll cut them in half and put them on top. The oven's preheated to 400, and we'll bake it about 15 to 20 minutes. Just check it. When it gets good and brown and set, it's done. We have our crust out of the oven. This is really hot, so I'm not going to pick it up. It's just barely set. It's been in there about 20 minutes. I'm going to pour the topping over it. Spread it out, our mayonnaise and cheese and eggs and onions and all the good things we have in there. Mid-south to the south, and I guess people up north maybe too, but We grow fresh tomatoes down here in the summer, and that's when you really want to make a lot of tomato pies, but they're very good any time of the year. You can make them. And we're going to put our tomatoes on. I'm not going to put the juice on. I'm just going to scatter the tomatoes about. You're going to have to try this. You're going to love it. If you like tomatoes, cheese, eggs, I think you're going to love it. Onions. We're going to put some basil on when we get these on here. You don't want the juice. There's salt that I put on, pulled some of the juice out, which is good. That's what you want to do. You should not want them real juicy. Just kind of spread them where they'll be sort of somewhat evenly divided over the pie. Got some dried basil. I said I don't have fresh. If you had fresh, you could put fresh basil leaves on it right before you take it out and just kind of let them wilt. But I'm just going to sprinkle on some dry. About a tablespoon or so here. And it will be good on there. Kind of spread it out, cover it up. Then we're going to put this back in the oven and bake it just a little bit longer. Good stuff here. You could even throw some oregano on there if you wanted to. We're going to bake this about 18 to 20 more minutes, and then we'll be finished. Hello, this is Shirlene, and I host the Southern Gal Show. And I hope you enjoyed our show today as much as we enjoyed making it. I hope you'll join us for future shows. And if you like home cooking and milling grains and baking and good old Southern recipes, be sure and join us, like and subscribe to our channel. And be sure and watch us on Mupo TV at 3 p.m. Eastern on Sunday afternoons. And share. And we'd love to see you on the next show. Thanks. Bye-bye.